Welcome to this video edition of Inkscape Experiments. This video is brought to you in part by chrishilbig.com, and this is a complimentary video on an article that I've recently written on how to spin and clone both paths and objects within Inkscape using an extremely powerful tool called the Create Tiled Clones window. Now, for those of you who aren't particularly familiar with the Create Tiled Clones feature within Inkscape, or just never heard of it, I'm going to give you a small sample of what this extremely powerful feature is capable of. And we'll go ahead and apply it to this very simple 5-point path. So let's bring up the Create Tile Clones window by clicking in the Edit menu, select Clone, Create Tile Clones. Now, by default, whenever you open up the Create Tile Clones window, you're going to be confronted with the Symmetry tab. And basically what the Symmetry tab contains is a drop-down menu of different transformations you can apply to your object or your path. Now it does have other tabs for specific transformations you can focus on, like the Shift tab, the Scale tab, the Rotation tab, the Blur and Opacity tab, the Color tab. Now there's also a Trace tab, and from what I understand, the Trace tab mainly focuses on tracing bitmaps that you would import into Inkscape. So let's go ahead and jump back to our focus, which is the Rotation tab. Alright, and we'll go ahead, and since the path is running horizontally, we're going to drop in a number underneath the per row angle instead of the per column. Now if our path was running up and down or vertically, we would definitely drop in a number for the per column angle. So let's go ahead and drop in a relatively low number. And what that's going to do is have Inkscape basically rotate each clone every 30 degrees. Now, let's go ahead and move our attention down to where it says rows and columns. And I dropped in a number 10 for the number of clones that we're going to have. And so 10 times, Inkscape's going to rotate a clone 30 degrees. Now the reason why I have a 10 within the rows and a 1 within the column, and there's not basically a greater number within the column's number field, is due to the fact that if I did that, instead of getting this, I would end up getting something like this. Alright, and that may not be something that you might desire. Alright, now we're going to talk about rotating objects. Alright, and the first thing we're going to do is we're going to talk about a problem that all users are going to run into when rotating objects. So let's go ahead and select our rectangle. A very simple rectangle, nothing special about it. We'll go back to Edit, Clone, Create Tile Clones. We're going to apply the exact same settings that we did to our path. And I'm going to show you the problem. Now you see, instead of doing a simple rotation of the object, it's doing something wacky like that. And my belief is just due to the fact that is just where Inkscape determines the center of an object as compared to a simple path. Alright, as far as a path, it's probably pretty straightforward for Inkscape to figure out, but for an object, not so much. It may determine the center over here or in the corner. I'm not sure where, but you know, that's not the end of the world. There's a way to work around this, and we do this by clicking on the Shift tab, and of course we'll go ahead and remove our transformation since it's not set in stone. Now what we're going to do to have Inkscape cleanly rotate this object in the visual center, or what we consider the visual center, is we're going to type in -100 for the per column and -100 under the per row for the Shift Y. Alright, and that's going to allow us to cleanly rotate that object in its visual center and not what Inkscape considers its center. So we'll just go ahead, click the Create button, and bada bing, Now we're going to go ahead and take what we've just learned and apply it to a real life situation. So let's go ahead and use the Create Tile Clones feature to essentially spin us a ray beam. So let's go ahead and start with a rectangle. We can do that by using the rectangle tool. And if you have to, you can use the keystroke Shift Control F to bring up your fill and stroke palette and just adjust whatever you need to adjust. Now we're going to take this rectangle object and we're going to convert it to a path by clicking in the object menu. The path menu, object to path. Now we have a rectangle with 4 different nodes, and I'm going to go ahead and delete one of them by selecting one of the nodes, tapping the delete key on my keyboard. Now to eliminate this curve and straighten this side of the path out, I'm going to go ahead and select my 2 affected nodes, and I'm going to go up to this button here known as the Make Selected Nodes Corners. Click that. Alright, now we have nice sharp points. Now I'm going to use more than one color for this ray beam. So we'll go ahead and duplicate it using the keystroke Control D. We'll go ahead and change the color. And then we'll go back up here and we'll flip it horizontally. Alright. And then after that, I'm going to click and drag while holding down the Control key to constrain the movement. Okay. And I'm going to have these 2 objects basically meet each other on the very edge. And you can also use the arrow keys on your keyboard as well. Alright. And I still don't like that, honestly. There we go. Now we'll go ahead and group what we have, and we can do that by selecting both the objects using the selector tool. Use the keystroke Control G, or if you don't remember keystrokes particularly great, go to the object menu, select group, go ahead and zoom out just a little bit. Alright, and what we're going to do next is duplicate what we have here, and we're going to flip it vertically. So we'll do the keystroke Control D. Go ahead and flip it vertically. We'll drag it down holding down the Control key to constrain the movement. And we're going to drag it down just enough to where the tips of the triangles touch each other. Alright, and just to maintain our sanity, we're going to flip it horizontally, because when we rotate what we have, I want the blue to, of course, touch the yellow and the yellow to touch the blue, instead of having some wacky mess where only the blue touch the blue triangles and the yellows touch the yellows. Now, what we're going to do next is group both of these objects so the Create Tile Clones feature can just focus on one selection instead of multiple selections. And the other reason why we're going to do that is because we want to rotate both of these triangles at our visual center right over in here instead of here or wherever else. So let's go ahead and jump back to our Create Tile Clones window. Let's make sure we have -100 under the Shift X per column and Shift Y per row. Alright, now to complete our ray beam, we're going to drop in the proper settings to make this happen. Now for this situation here, I dropped in a 9.9 angle for the per row, and we're going to use 50. Click on the create button. Alright, looks like we're going to need a few more. There we go. Now when you're trying to figure this out up front, and this always happens to me anyway, but go ahead and just start with just a handful of of clones at a time. And this will give you an opportunity to basically go back and forth with your angle so you can nail down what you need. Because, like, let's say you're using, let's just say 20 for your clones. See, how the heck are you going to adjust that? You have just too much going on. So I really recommend whenever you're rotating an object similar to a ray beam, just utilize a handful of clones at a time. And we'll just whittle it down here. And if you screw up, that's okay. You can always click the remove button. The only time you'll ever want to click the reset button is if you want to clear out all your settings. But as you can tell here, and I'll zoom in a bit, there's very little daylight between the paths. So we'll go ahead, drop in a few more clones. And if need be, we can always adjust the angle as well. Alright, and there we go. Thanks for watching.